This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com. This episode of Sketchup, a 3D Toolbox, is brought to you by 3D Connection, makers of the Space Navigator. To learn more about them, visit their website at www.3dconnection.com. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sketchup, a 3D Toolbox. I'm Cameron Harris, and this is episode number 27. Now, this time we're going to continue working on our small house project by learning how to use advanced textures. Now, keep in mind, I have made some changes to the model since the last time we worked on it. You'll see those in a minute. If you want to continue along with the model that I have right here, you can go to the show notes for this episode on our website and download it so you can follow along. Without any further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing you're probably going to notice about our model is that it looks slightly different than when we last left it. When we last left it, we only had one door, the front door here, and one window, this one here. Now, all I've done between that show and this one is just add more of it. Didn't do any special new techniques, used the exact same techniques that we used in that episode. If you didn't see that episode, go back and watch it, because it talks about how you can download these doors and windows from the 3D warehouse and adjust them so that they fit inside your model, and also how to punch the holes in the walls for them. But you can see I've just put the same windows on more walls throughout, and I've also done a couple of interior doors. Now here's a nice little tip before we get into the meat of this episode. You notice how these doors are partially open. That makes it really easy to navigate through them and into the next room to see what it is you want in there. Now, you don't have to do that. A lot of doors in the 3D warehouse aren't partially open like this, although it's pretty easy to make them open. That might be a good episode to do in the future, actually. And, you could always, of course, just go straight through a wall like this, but it's a little bit nicer if you can go through the doorways. Kind of helps keep you oriented so that you know where you are. But you can see we've got windows and doors all through the house now. So now we've basically got the fundamental necessities of a house. We have the floor and the walls, and the ceiling is the last thing we do, actually, because this way we can still peer into the top, kind of like a big play set almost, like a dollhouse. And we've added the doors and the windows, so that's all done. The next step is to start adjusting how this thing looks. So we're actually going to be doing some textures on this. Now, we've done a couple episodes on textures before, custom photo textures and regular textures that are built into SketchUp, straight colors and all the various photo textures that are built in. But today we're going to look at a couple of advanced techniques and also how we can retexture objects we've already downloaded from the 3D warehouse, as well as some transparent textures. And that's going to be pretty interesting. Now, let's go ahead and dive right into that. Now, the first thing, of course, is to make sure that whatever face it is that you want to paint or texture is available. That is, it's not grouped. So you can see our walls and our floor are still in the raw line and face mode, where you can click on any face or line and select just that face or just that line. If it was all grouped, you'd have to either ungroup them or go into the group before you can start painting. So we're in the raw line and face mode. That's perfect. Now we can start applying the textures. So to do that, I'm going to switch to the bucket tool, which is up in the toolbar right here. Pretty self-explanatory icon. And it's also over here in the tool palette. But you can also use my personal favorite method of getting to it, the keyboard shortcut B for bucket. And you can see that two things happen. Our cursor turns into a bucket, and we get our colors palette over here. Now, for now, I'm just going to stick with the typical colors. This is the color palette that you see in all applications in OS X. The Mac OS. If you're on Windows, you might see something slightly different, but it's going to be the same idea. So I'll just stick this over in the sidebar here for now. Move this around a little bit. Good. Okay, so now I'm ready to start painting. Now, the first thing I want to do is let's do this kind of main entryway right here, because this is the first color you're going to see when you walk into this house. So for this, let's go with, how about a nice blue? So to get a nice blue, I'm just going to kind of play with the picker in here a little bit. Maybe something kind of like that, and then darken it a little bit. That's kind of a nice kind of a sea foam, a little bit of green in there. Let's see how that looks. Now I'm just going to use the bucket tool and click on the face that I want to paint. Very nice. Now here's an important thing to notice. If I drag this over here, you'll notice the color we have in our color palette right here and the color that the wall looks like are very different. This one looks a little bit brighter, a little bit less saturated. This one looks much more, saturated and kind of a little bit garish, if you will. That's just because when SketchUp renders all of the shadows and various things, so that everything isn't just all white, these walls are a little bit more darker because of the light sources that it's computing and everything like that. Colors aren't always going to look the same as they look in your palette. Now, as such, you're going to have to tweak them a little bit. Sometimes it takes a couple tries. You can see this is looking very desaturated, but when we apply it to this wall, it looks a lot better. So that's a little bit more like what I'm going for. So I'm going to actually apply that to these walls here. Very nice. So we've got those walls there. Now we've got this kind of larger area out here. I'm not sure if I want to use that same color. Let's go for a little bit, we have a nice big batch of color in the hallway here. Let's go for a slightly more muted color, kind of like a tan almost. So to do that, I'm going to adjust my picker here. I'm going to go for something a little bit more like that. So let's just see how that looks. Again, it's going to look different when we apply it to the wall. That's not looking too bad, actually. Let's see how that looks. If I apply it to all these walls here, that's very nice. All right, now here's something that you want to watch out for. You see how when I applied the paint to this wall here, and this happens sometimes when you're doing a series of rooms, it still thinks that these two walls here are the same face. As such, you notice when I select one, it selects the other. It's because they're actually one solid face right now. And also, the paint is applied to both of them because they're the same face. Now, you might think, well, that doesn't make any sense. There's a line right here. There's a wall right there. That should be splitting them in half. Well, normally, yes, but sometimes when you are working with walls like this, sometimes SketchUp doesn't immediately recognize those lines, and you need to kind of tell it, no, there's a line here. And the easiest way to do that is actually to retrace the line. So I'm going to use the L key to switch to the line tool, and I'm just going to retrace this line here. Now, nothing appears to have happened, but now, see, I click on this wall, it just selects that wall. I click on this wall, it just selects that wall. And now I can paint this section of the wall without affecting this room here. I'll paint that wall too. Perfect. So that's something you want to kind of watch out for. Now, here's something that I'm noticing right here. I don't really like having this blue in this wall right here. I like having this room this kind of tan color, but I'm not so wild about having this blue right here. I would like it if the blue maybe stopped right around where this wall stops, right here. So maybe like from here on back, blue, but from here on out, tan to match the rest of the room. That would be really nice. Now, how can I divide these walls up? Well, very much like what we just did here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use the tape measure tool, T key for the tape measure tool. I'm just going to draw a line. This is where I want it to stop in reference to this wall. I'm just going to draw a quick guide right there. So that line right there is where this wall stops. And I'm just going to use the line tool, and I'm going to draw one line up like that. And you can see that has split this wall, or this face rather, in two. So now I can use the paint bucket tool and just paint over that part and leave the hallway itself alone. Very nice. And then I'll just select the guide there, delete it. Perfect. So now let's pick our flooring. Now for the flooring, I don't want to do just a regular color. I want to use an actual photorealistic texture for like some hardwood floor, for example. Now to do that, we go up to our color picker here, And we have this extra little thing right here, this little brick. If you click that, you have this custom color picker here that has all these various textures that are actually photographs that are built into SketchUp. Now, we have all these various categories in this drop down here. This is the metal category, but we could do roofing or stone or tile. Let's go for wood in this case. I'm looking for some hardwood floor. Let's see here. This one looks kind of interesting, this first one. You click it, it loads it up into your little color picker right here. And now we can click on our floor once. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. Now, I got to be honest with you. I like having that kind of darker flooring out here. It kind of contrasts nicely with these walls here. But in the hallway, it doesn't really go with the blue. I'd like a lighter version of it in there. Now, how can I do that? Same drill. Just use the line tool, and we're going to actually draw a line here and splitting these two faces in half. So now we have the flooring split in two. So now I'm going to select this lighter wood right here and click. Very nice. That's a lot better, I think. It goes much nicer with this blue, but the darker color goes nicely out here. So now we've got this line right here dividing those two. We can do two different colors. Perfect. Now let's move on to these smaller rooms here. So let's see here. I think I'm going to go for some more punchy colors in here. Let's make this one maybe a nice red. Nice kind of cranberry red in there. All right, now see, that's a little bit too much. That's looking a little bit more like cherry red in there. So I'm actually going to darken it a little bit. And maybe a little bit less saturated. That's looking a little bit better, a little bit more of a dusty red. Just paint on those two walls there. Good. And then for here, I'd actually like the same flooring that I have out here. Now here's a nice little tip for you. If you have a texture that you have over somewhere else in your model, and you're thinking, okay, I really want to use this texture again, because in my case, I want to use it in here. Well, you could go through the picker and try to find it again, but it could be something that you can't recreate using the picker, at least not very easily. If that's the case, while you're in the bucket tool, hold down the command key. That'll switch you to the eyedropper tool. You see how your icon changes there, your little cursor? And when you do that, you can click on any face in SketchUp, grouped or ungrouped, click, and you'll notice that it loads that texture or color, whatever it is, up into the color picker here. So you can now, you've essentially copied that texture, and then you can put it wherever you want by clicking somewhere else once. Very nice. Now, here's something kind of interesting. You'll notice that we've got this line here. Now, that's splitting these two floors in half. Now, that's fine. We're using the same texture in each. Doesn't really matter. But I'm not really too wild about having this weird black line right here. Now, if that's the case, all you have to do is just click on that line and delete it. And you see it doesn't affect anything else. If it did affect something else, like all of a sudden your floor was deleted with it, that means that your floor was relying on that line to contain it. Remember, you got to have lines on all sides of a face to make it exist, and it's possible that when you deleted that, it just kind of caused a chain reaction across the whole thing. If that's the case, you want to figure out what exactly is causing that to happen, see if there's a way you can work around that. But now, let's move on into this room here. Let's see here. Let's go for maybe a nice green in this room. So maybe not exactly a sea green, more of a foresty kind of a green color. Let's see how this looks. All right, that's looking pretty good. A little bit too saturated. Things in SketchUp tend to look oversaturated and really kind of bright. So it's best to kind of make it look dark and dull, if you will, in your color picker, then go in. You can see that's looking a little bit better. I'm going to back off on the color a little bit more. Maybe brighten it just a touch. There we go. You just keep on tweaking until you find something that looks good to you. Just click in here. Oop. There we go. Don't want to paint the top of that. And I'm going to do the same thing, same wood in here. So I'm going to use this lighter color in this room as well. Don't really want this line here. Just delete that. All right, so now I've got that. Now in this room here, this is going to be kind of like a bathroom, I think. So I think I'm going to use some tile in here. So I'm going to go back to my textures picker, click on the categories and choose tile. And let's pick, now that's pretty cool. That's kind of a nice match with the rest of my flooring. I really like that. Doesn't look like a bathroom tile. So that's very, very nice. And I think I'm actually going to tie it in using the same color that I have out here in my hallway. So I'll use the Command key to select that color, paste it in on all these walls right here. There we go. Perfect. So I'm really liking this color scheme. Very, very nice. But there's one sore thumb that's kind of sticking out, and that would be these walls here. Remember, I got these walls from the doors. I got these doors from the 3D warehouse, so they came, as they came. This is exactly as I download them. I've adjusted the size, but the colors are exactly the same, and this dark wood really isn't blending with the rest of my house at all. So I'm going to show you how you can actually adjust the colors of something that you've already downloaded from the 3D warehouse. And let's actually start with, I'll tell you what, let's start with the interior door right here. So I'll zoom down in here. Now, one thing to notice about the interior door is that you click on it once, it selects the whole thing. That means it's grouped. So if I were to try and paint something on it right now, it's not going to work because it's grouped. I need to actually double click on the group first. And now you can see there are more groups within this. So let's do this outer door first. Double click on this. Double click again. Okay, now I've drilled down and I've gotten to this part of the door that I want to change. It is now in raw line and face mode. Sometimes you have to drill down depending on the person who actually modeled this. They grouped a lot of things, which is absolutely fine. You just got to drill down a little bit more to find what you're looking for. Kind of like the file structure on your computer. You got to go through the folders, one folder after another, till you find the actual file that you're looking for. Now, in this case, I want to change this wood here. And I actually don't want to use wood at all. I'd rather use a solid color. I think it'd be nice to have like white doors in my room. So I'm going to actually just select a white color here. And you can see if I click once, it makes it white. So that's very nice. That's very simple. But you see there's a lot of faces here. I got these guys here on the sides. I've got this guy back here. It's going to be a lot of work, and not to mention the one under here. Don't know how I'm going to get to that. It's a lot easier if you have something that's already been textured. Let's undo that real quick. There's another keyboard shortcut that you can use with the bucket tool, and that is the Option key. When you do the Option key, hold down the Option key, you'll see that you actually have a couple little extra teeny squares that pop up. This means that when you click on whatever face you click, anything within the group that you're within, so in this case, anything on this doorway, that is the same texture or color as whatever it is I'm clicking on, which in this case, this texture is the same as this texture, the one back there. All of those textures, all like textures, will be changed. So let me show you. I Option click on this guy here, and you'll see that all of the faces that were originally that ugly brown color have now been changed to just pure white. I didn't have to go around clicking each one manually. No big deal at all. So that's perfect. I'm really happy about that. So now I'm going to double click outside of this group to get out of it. And you can see here, I've got this group here, which is my door frame here. So I'm going to double click on my door frame, and now I'm in the raw line and face mode. So this is good. Now, this one, there's a lot of detailed molding on this. There's a ton of different faces that I would normally have to go through and select manually, but not anymore, because if I Option click here, it changes every last face on there. It's times like these when you're so glad that you have that Option tool, because it is just a huge time saver. So now I'm going to double click outside to get out of that. There we go. So now I've got a nice pure white door. And you'll notice that my other interior door has been changed along with it, because these two doors are actually components. So that's Really very nice. Very pleased about that. So that's great. Now I'm going to do the same thing to my front door here. So I'm going to double click on my front door, go into the groups, go in. Okay, now I've gotten to the point where I'm at this wood. I'm going to make this white as well. Why not? Option click, changes all that stuff. I'll keep the molding around it that white. And let's see. That only changed the back side. So now I'm going to go into here, and now I've got the front. Option click. There were a couple different textures of wood on there, so I had to option click a couple times, but it still saved me a few steps. And now I've got a very nice door there. And I'm also noticing, as long as I'm on the outside of the house, I might as well texture the outside walls of my house too. And for that, they actually have an entire section in the SketchUp color picker called brick and cladding. A little bit of an odd name, but in here you have what you would expect, brick and stuff like that, but you also have this stuff that actually is very much like siding, the siding of a house. So I'm actually going to pick this darker one here with the lines. I'm going to start painting these outside walls. And you can see it looks just like the siding of a house. I'm just going to go around, click on all of these side walls here. And now we've just got this this kind of extra spot down here. This is the slab, the flooring slab that we built on. Now you could, go ahead and texture this the same exact thing. But I'm actually going to pick some of this brick here and paint it brick to kind of make it look like a foundation. So I can do the same thing here. Now be careful, you might be tempted to option click here, but then because we're ungrouped, everything that's white in the entire model would turn white. Let me show you. If I option click here, you can see, yes, it changes all the side stuff, but also this whole top thing here, all of the interiors that were white. It's best in this case to go through manually, particularly when you're in something that isn't grouped in your model. It's actually a lot simpler just to go through and do it manually in that case. By all means, experiment. You can always undo, but oftentimes you'll get unexpected results. So that looks very, very nice. I'm really happy with that. And you could go crazy. You could add more colors. You could divide up the walls all you want. You could download textures online and use your own custom photo textures in SketchUp. There's an entire episode on that in our back catalog. But the next thing I want to show you is something we haven't covered before, and that is textures that are actually translucent, see-through, like this window here. Now, before we do that, I want to thank the people who make this show possible, 3D Connection. Now, these guys make the space navigators, I'm sure you know by now, the best way to navigate in SketchUp, hands down. Not just because it's very intuitive, and it's very easy, and it's ergonomic, and it's fast, but also because it just looks so smooth. Now, you might wonder, why would you want to look so smooth? Well, for one thing, it's easier on your eyes. You don't get nauseous navigating through your model if you're spinning and twirling all over the place, switching between keyboard shortcuts and tools and things like that. But imagine if you were presenting this model to a client. Say you did this professionally, you're presenting it to a client, or you're presenting it to a friend even, and you want to show them, look, check out this model of a house that I did. Well, with the Space Navigator, you can actually navigate through the house just like you were walking through it with them and giving them the grand tour. You can stay at eye level, you can turn, you can go through doorways. You have a ton of control. You can go nice and slow, or you can speed up. Navigate through the doorways, show them the colors you've selected, show them the furniture you've picked out, show them the floor plan you've come up with. It's a fantastic way to show off your creation. And I gotta be honest with you, after switching to the Space Navigator, I could not switch back to a keyboard and mouse. It's just, I couldn't. I want you guys to check them out. Their website is 3dconnection.com. They make the most amazing stuff for SketchUp, and I really want to thank them for sponsoring this episode of SketchUp, a 3D Toolbox. All right, now to learn about transparent textures. Now, by transparent, I mean see-through, just like these windows here. You can see that if I go into this group here, you can see that each of these little panes of glass is actually a face, but it's not solid. It is solid, but it's not opaque. It actually, you can see through it. It's transparent. Now, how did they do that? You might be wondering. Well, that's actually built into SketchUp, and I'll show you how you can do it. Now, in this case, I've got this sliding glass door right here, but at the moment it's not looking too much like glass. The stuff is slightly transparent, but I really want to kind of replace it because it's really blue and it's really kind of, I'm just really not liking it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first double click on the group to get into the model. There we go. So now I can select these faces independently of the rest. And now I'm actually going to pick a solid color, and you could go completely clear and make it just completely like glass, but I actually prefer to make it, give it a little bit of a bluish tint, just to kind of make it a little bit like make it clear that you're looking through glass. Just to make sure that there is, just so you know that there is actually something there. Now at the moment, if I paint this, you can see that, okay, it looks like you've actually put paint on the window. It's not transparent at all. But you'll notice this extra slider down here called opacity. If you drag this slider left and right, you can change the opacity of whatever it is that you're painting. And you can see that, like, if I drag this to 50%, you can see that up here, you're getting this kind of like slashed line through here. The more contrasty that is, so like black and white, that means that you're completely transparent. It's going to be like nothing's there. As it becomes less and less obvious, less contrast between the two sides, you're getting more and more opaque, more solid. But you can also see down here, you have this percentage. You can actually enter in a value like, 50% here. And that'll give you 50% opacity. And that's actually where I'm going to start. That means it's going to be about half opaque, half fully transparent. So I'll go back into SketchUp and I will paint on these walls now. So now those are transparent now, but you'll notice we still got those weird blue ones there. We didn't use that color. Well, that's because these are actually 3D panes of glass. They have two sides. So they have the interior side, but then if you go out here, you have this outer side here that we also need to paint. So we're going to paint that and that. There we go. That's looking a little bit more like it. And I'll deselect it. And you can see that around 50%, you can tell that there's something there. Like in the case of these windows here, these are completely transparent. In fact, I don't know if there actually is nothing. There's literally nothing in there. But if there was, and you turn the opacity down to 0%, this is what it would look like. It's like there's nothing there. But I actually like being able to know that, okay, there's a pane of glass there. You got a little bit of color, just a little tint of blue, and it's around 50% opacity. And this way you can tell, okay, there's something there. It's not just a doorway. There actually is a pane of glass there. And you can see they did the same thing on the front door that I downloaded from the 3D warehouse. If you zoom in really close on these panes of glass, you can see that this is actually a texture. You can do this with photo textures as well, and just drop down the opacity, and now it looks like little glass tiles. That's a really cool effect you can do too. A lot of fun you can have with this, not just with windows and doors, but also things like shower doors or cabinets or all kinds of really cool stuff. Light fixtures would be another cool thing to do. You could do stained glass windows by doing multiple colors and dividing it up with lines. A lot of fun you can have with this technique. Well, I hope you found this episode useful. Remember that if you want to follow along exactly with what I'm doing, I have the lesson file as it is at the beginning of this episode on our website, which is www.harwoodpodcast.com. You can also watch all of our old shows there too. And if you have any questions or comments for me about the show, suggestions for future shows even, you can send me an email at cameron@harwoodpodcast.com. Until next time, I'll just say goodbye and good modeling.